Don't you just love these beautiful autumn days? Gorgeously warm for a little bit in between the cold and the showers and the wind. Such a lovely time of the year. I thought I would just show you a catch up on the garden just before a lot of things start to go over. So welcome to Blue Garden Cottage. Wonderful to be able to share a moment with you in the garden. It's a bit rarer at this time of year for me to be out in the garden, even though I love to garden all year round. There are little bits and bobs, but it's not so intensive as in the spring and some parts of the summer. I'd love it to be, and I'm working towards making it so. Until then, we're just gonna potter. Look at this. Bumblebees still finding food in the garden from the tomatillos. And there are still some flowers coming up on the butternut. And yes, there is a new butternut squash just there. And this one is doing nice as well. Doing really well. And the parsnips are thriving. The spring onions are still doing good. The French sorrel, not so much. It's a bit too shady in here, I think. But yeah, the butternut are still going and they're growing and making flowers. Even though we're not going to get fruit off them, I'm still going to leave them. I'm going to harvest the butternut today, the two of them. Put them on a sunny windowsill to cure. And the rest I will just let it grow until the frost kills it. Because while it's growing, it's feeding the bees and providing shelter. There was on here a shield bug a few minutes ago. So yep, there's still lots of good guys, the predators and the pollinators, all still enjoying the garden. The ochre is still growing wonderfully and spreading lovely. The ground is still covered by the leaves and protected. So I can't wait to harvest those and see what we've actually grown this year. And the rest I just cover up with more compost. I'll use that plastic to make a polytunnel over the garden bed for the winter. Time to harvest those chard and Russian kale seeds. There are still raspberries on the raspberry canes that I can harvest. And there's still sweet peas coming up, even though I'm getting some beautiful seed heads there to save seed for next year. Sweet Williams as well, there's still some flowers on there. And seed heads. The feverfew is still doing great. Himalayan honeysuckle. Though I didn't want it there, it just grew there, so I'm going to move it. And those zinnias, look at them. Excuse the washing. They're still flowering and sending up brand new shoots. So I've just cut off some of the flowers so we can get some more. The really bright ones, the bright fuchsia ones and the pink ones, I'm wanting to save those seeds. So I need to let 2 plants go to seed. Because I want them for next year. So I'll let those few over this side and the pink ones go to seed. The parsley still doing all right in the bed, and so is the rocket. The kale, oh, cabbage white. Oh, but look. There's a wasp. Oh, watch. They are such caterpillar predators. Go on, show us what you do, because I've seen you do it. I have seen them literally suck up and chew up an entire caterpillar in one sitting. Oh, look. Yeah, got something. So the wasps are welcome in my garden. I just wish there were more of them because there's too many of the blinking caterpillars. There is still some campanula, and of course the ivy will keep going right the way through the year. Rose hips are forming on the roses, and I'm going to let them do their thing naturally. And then in the spring I shall chop them down much lower and give them a good feed and let them do their thing. Chilean guavas, look at that. Don't they just look beautiful? Not quite ready yet because they're still slightly hard. They need to be give a little bit of give in them. They're not ready yet. Let's hope the birds don't see them. Yeah. Isn't it just typical how the yukon is finally taking off? And there's not much left of the season. We'll have to get them just as the frost is forecast, because they do not like frost at all. These tomatillos, oh my goodness, they're doing really well. And I can't say I'm a fan of them, but next week I went and got more jars because I've run out. Next week I shall gather what there is. There's some really big ones I harvested yesterday. I shall gather some more. There were much bigger ones that I harvested yesterday, really massive ones. And I shall make a chutney. Apple and tomatillo. So I shall let you know how I get on with that. Harvested some of the gherkins I've let go to ripen so that I can have the seed for next year. And there are only three passion fruit. One starting to ripen nicely. They aren't ripe until they start wrinkling all the way around. As soon as they just wrinkled all the way around, they are ready and lovely and ripe. The great thing about forest gardening and cottage gardening is that there's a lot less work in my garden anyway. The shrubs are still growing and some are starting to go over, like the hawthorn. The Nephofia or red hot pokers need tidying up before they make a lovely home for slugs through the winter. The rhubarb is practically done, needs splitting this year. The hydrangea is still giving us flowers. The honeyberry is good for absolutely nothing for us except food for the birds and a bit of a wind shelter there. So I'm in two minds about getting rid of those, because for the time being they're giving us a good wind shelter. The teasel I really left a bit too long. I was hoping the birds would come for the seed, but they aren't really coming to the garden much. Hang on. The strawberries are absolutely jumping into life just before winter. I probably should give them a bit of a hair trim. The Jerusalem artichoke in the pot over there are still going. I think I will leave them a bit longer. And I shall harvest what's there a little bit and keep one or two for next year, because you get quite a few of just that, and we don't have much of it. We haven't quite acquired that taste yet. The rose is still in leaf and putting out new shoots. The comfrey is going over, so I'm going to have to gather that quickly and stick it in the bucket for more feed for next year. Hopefully the peonies will get some flowers next year, but things are still looking good. They're still ground covering the soil. The salad burnet has sprouted absolutely everywhere, so I shall be able to pick some of those up and put it into pots under the potting shed so that we can have some fresh salad burnet during the winter. Oh, my lady's bed straw. The bees love this. These are seeds, so I think I should keep these and put them where I want them to grow next year. Look at that. Passion flower is still flowering into October. Heather is looking good now. Even the fuchsias. Remember the fuchsia that was dying? that went down to nothing but a little stick, a dead stick in the ground. I thought it was dead. I thought, oh, I'll leave it. Well, it's come back, obviously. And I'm so happy that it has come back. Yeah, very happy about that. Still got daylilies. We haven't brought ourselves to eat them yet. To me, they're too pretty. I'm just leaving them there. I need to gather the hollyhock seeds off. And tentacular, well, she's still putting out the tentacles. And that hawthorn needs to come down. That leader needs to come right down to a manageable height that I could reach with a long pair of loppers. All still growing well. Mushrooms there to me, because I don't believe that is just not honey fungus, so it's a welcome fungus, and it's helping to break down the wood chips and take the nutrients into the soil, ready for all the organisms and the insects to get their nutrients from it. That lemon balm over there is still putting out new growth. Not as nutritious as it would be first part of the year, but still going. So I might get something. Oh, the Elaeagnus is full of flowers. Very tiny flowers, but it's still got loads of flowers. Look at that, it's time. There you go. Just there you can see some of them. And in the winter is when the Elaeagnus are flowering and fruiting. I need to chop these buddleia seed heads off because there's just going to be buddleia everywhere in the garden otherwise. That's the only management needs doing there, keeping things to a manageable height. And there you go. Oh, somebody's struggling with their baby. Poor dad, he's trying desperately to appease his little baby. And that baby just does not want to be comforted. Love her. Sage, I need to get some sage. Our sage has always gone right the way through the winter. It's been pretty much evergreen for us. So there is our garden in October. Still plenty going on. I've got some seeds I can harvest from my bronze fennel. So I can still get something off them. And there's still some clematis flowers, even though there are seed heads everywhere. So I shall leave that to do its thing naturally for a bit. Even the rocket, every time we come to the door, it's full of bees and hoverflies. And oh my goodness, what a beautiful scent. I love the rocket just for the flowers and the beautiful perfume on them. Gorgeous. I don't often need to come out into the front garden. I don't often need to do anything in the front garden, except for when I want to put in new plants and harvest things. So I cannot wait to be able to put more of my plants. The magnolia is going to go out here. And what else? There's still a few things in the back garden I could bring out and put out in the front garden. I'll make space for them. I think that tree kale is not very much longer to survive in this garden. I do have another one out in the back. I shall take another cutting to replace the one that I put in the ground. So I think I'll take some cuttings off that in the spring. So yep, just a tiny bit of tidying up. Look at that. All the way from there, from the end of the garden, in just 2 years, right the way to the end there. And the camellia is still surviving, though it's not very happy in that spot because it's not growing very fast, but it's surviving. Just to think, from a bare empty patch with nothing but hardcore bit of moss, bit of clay on top, not even 2 inches of clay on top. The grass didn't even want to grow here. From a bare patch to a forest cottage garden in just, what's it now? 6 years? Well, actually 5, because the front garden I started more than a year after I started the back garden. It's amazing what you can do in a small space with not too much effort, because as I've shown you before, there is no digging except to dig a hole for the plants to go in. and just keeping the ground covered, putting up a little bit of a wind, idiot with his bike, with a little bit of a windbreak and a frame for things to climb on. You don't need big trees in a small garden. Your climbing plants can provide a nice enough framework at a manageable height in a small garden. And plenty of food for nature, and pleasure for us, and even food for us. So there you go, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this little bit of a catch up in the garden. I hope your gardens are still, if you have a garden, still productive, still giving plenty to look at and plenty to enjoy for both yourself and the wildlife, even if all you have is a windowsill. Enjoy this time of the year, and I shall probably be doing a few bits and bobs here in the garden. Well, there's not much left, is it? Not even 3 months left of the year. There's still some of the gentle Hermione roses coming up there in the background. And there's still strawberry flowers at the back there. Okay, folks, next week is homemaking week. I'll show you what I've been doing in there, especially with some of our winter preparations and some clearing out and tidying up and putting things in order. And is it next week? No, it'll be the week after. I'll show you what I do with the tomatillos and that with the chutney. I'll show you then, because next week is taken up. We have quite a lot of crafts doing as well. So the week after next, I'll show you what we're doing with the crafts. A lot going on and progress on the doll's house. So yes, it's a busy month, more for indoor stuff than outdoors. Obviously, it's the season for it. Catch up with you next week. Do stay well, stay safe, and I'll chat with you then. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.